world surrounded by franchises, reboots, and shared universes. An elite team of podcasters will risk body and soul to investigate the depths of intellectual properties, one multiverse, subgenre, and trend at a time. Who are we? We're the IP Squad.
Welcome back to the IP Squad and our ongoing investigation into films based on video games. I'm John Campbell. My partners for this leg of this investigation, because of course this is a Calling All Cars season, we've got, our most veteran, I hope he makes it out of this season all right. Mike Gorgone's with me.
I'm doing great, John. Don't know what you're talking about. We haven't talked about Monster Hunter yet.
That hasn't happened yet because we're recording these not in order due to guest availability and stuff. And speaking of guests on this, he's back with us, Reed Morris.
Howdy, howdy. Happy to be here.
Reed, this was one, I gave you a couple movies, and this was immediately the one you seized upon. We are talking about 2019's Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Reed, what there's so much to discuss about this because this is such a...
Yeah, John, how do you unpack Pokemon?
Well, how do you unpack... But
how much time do you have?
That's the thing about this movie, right? Is one of the interesting things I think that about this movie is it is a Pokemon movie, but it is a detective. It is a specific Pokemon movie, which I think is interesting how you get there because, we can talk about your relationship with Pokemon, but this is not the Pokemon movie the way people might have imagined what a big budget live action Pokemon movie would look like.
No, that was released in 1999.
Right. I mean, I think if you were to imagine what the big studio, it would be some sort of live action version of a movie that kind of looked like that. I think that on paper would be the obvious thing, and they sort of zagged when you thought they were going to zig here.
Sorry. Pokemon, the first movie was released in 1998. I apologize.
You stopped just a flood of comments.
Well, I'm just saying because we've had to make the distinction for the vast majority of this season that we're doing live action adaptations of video game
live action
movies
theatrically released because I don't want to do any straight to video like Doom sequels, and I don't want to watch 20 Pokemon movies.
But that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
Is if you just even included theatrically released, we'd be doing a ton of Pokemon movies.
That's it exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing is, I didn't particularly need to talk about the Super Mario Brothers animated movie that was out and stuff like. This is already the longest season we've ever had on the show, and that would have made it twice as long. So that you're right. You're right in that there would be a lot more Pokemon to talk about, of course.
So how do you want to start talking about Pokemon, John? Because it's a big topic.
It is a big topic. I will say, though, and one of the reasons I'm glad to have two guests on this one, it's a topic that has basically no meaning to me. I don't have any, animosity towards it, but I never got into it. That wave that hit, in elementary school where people were way into it, just was never my thing. This movie, I feel like in particular, watching it, there's a lot of stuff that was lost on me. I wasn't confused. I think one of the things that is good about the movie is it tells a pretty succinct story unto itself. But there was a lot of stuff I was telling Gorgone before we started recording where I was like, I bet that got a cheer in the theater, and I don't know what that means. Or you're like, I don't know what that is. I mean, I know the basic. I know some of your Charizards and your Squirtles and stuff like that, because that's just, you can't be alive and consuming pop culture without getting some level of Pokemon reference. But
all right then, John, stand down. I've got this one.
Yeah, I mean, let me start with this is from childhood, I take it, the love of Pokemon started for both of you.
Reed, where did you start with Pokemon?
Oh, it was everywhere. It was like the TCG came
still
out,
is.
and from there I was like, okay, well, there's a cartoon, there's like an anime for it, and that was everywhere constantly. You couldn't escape it as like a kindergartner, a first grader, a second grader, and it just followed you everywhere. There were stand-ups in grocery stores, cardboard cutouts, new games coming out. It was everywhere, and like everyone was into it. So if you had a conversation with somebody about Pokemon, they were also equally as excited. So it's been there, not as far as I can remember, but for most of it, right?
But when we're talking about like franchises that we connect with, which is such a big part of this particular show, the IP Squad,
Definitely.
The one that maybe goes back probably the furthest with me and most enduringly is maybe Pokemon.
Interesting.
Like, it's a 30-year-old franchise. I am a 36 going on 37-year-old man. It's been there since I can remember, basically.
Yeah. I mean,
so like I was there day one with a Game Boy playing Red and Blue, Red and Green in the Japanese release, I understand, but it was Red and Blue over here. I had my trading cable. I got into a couple of fights on the playground over pulling that cable link before the trade was done.
You monster. What was it for? Was it worth it, Mike?
I mean, no. I was never the one pulling the cable link. Let's be honest here. I was the one defending my honor when somebody got my Magnemite, and I didn't necessarily get what I was promised in return.
Like at my school, at my elementary school, there were like rules. They had to like, this is becoming a problem. We have to have rules about how people can engage in Pokemon during like recess and stuff like that, because like you're talking about, fights were ensuing, whether that be the Game Boy stuff or the card games as well, of course, was big too. But like, yeah, and so it was a thing like you talk about. It was unavoidable, even not being a kid who was into it. It was just omnipresent, whether that be the cartoon show that was on TV that I saw sporadically, but once again didn't have the interest for it, but like was enough to absorb the basic characters and vibe of it, certainly.
I got my parents to invest in a VCR which we could set to tape things, and then also buy me blank VHS tapes so that episodes of Pokemon could be recorded every single day on Kids WB.
Yep.
Hell yeah.
And I was waiting for
expensive cartoon right there.
And I was waiting for that to end so I could watch the Batman Superman hour. I mean, it was, or
I didn't watch that as well.
Well, and of course the oft-mentioned Kids WB, oft-mentioned by us, I should say, not by just society, Men in Black animated series.
Oh yeah.
That was my jam.
Reed, what gen of Pokemon did you start out with? Like, obviously, it was always kind of there, but like, what was the first gen you remember playing?
So the first gen, like I started first gen, Red and Blue. I still have
John.
My blue
for those who don't know, a gen of Pokemon represents the generation of Pokemon as released per the video games.
Yes, I'm glad you clarified. I think that one is fairly easy to parse out. Yeah.
Sorry, Reed.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I started playing that at the same time, and I don't remember which game I got first for my Game Boy Color, if it was Pokemon Blue or if it was the TCG game, which
the TCG
I feel like
Game Boy game is a big touchstone.
It's really good.
I replayed it last year. I dug out my cart. I've got one of those, like, not a Game Boy, but basically a Game Boy's that you can plug your carts into, and it still plays just as smooth as ever.
Because I cannot distinguish in my mind which one came first for me. So they're kind of weirdly synonymous of just like, oh, if I wasn't playing this one, I was playing the other one. And at that time, you'd be like, oh man, someone got a red cartridge. Okay, cool. Okay, what do they have on theirs? I gotta be friends with them now so I can I figure out what they've got that I don't have, because this is really important to me as a 6-year-old, right?
Because they've got a Vulpix and I've got a Growlithe, and we can hook each other up.
Yeah, yeah.
I
We're
mean,
obviously going to be friends now because we have to be.
from a business standpoint, that's ingenious, right? I mean, like the idea of how they perpetuated this game, would come to define, obviously, and we've seen, unfortunately, to the detriment, I feel like, of the video game industry, so many other games and franchises try to chase that kind of stuff, and that gets into today's world of things like microtransactions and things like that have obviously become the bane of an existence. But I feel like a lot of that is people trying to replicate that. Like, how do we get people as obsessed with our material?
It's honestly wild to me that Pokemon hasn't fallen into the microtransaction. Like, obviously, Pokemon Go exists, so like I feel like that's maybe filling that niche. But the mainline Pokemon games have pretty much avoided like
That's good.
really egregious
Because
microtransactioning.
it's there. I mean, it would be so easy, as you talk about. Like it's built for it almost. So it's good that they aren't, because especially with this popularity among kids, that can get pretty nefarious pretty quickly.
Oof.
And as you bring up Pokemon Go, of course, that you talk about, it's still with us. Like when the Pokemon Go hit, man, that just ramped the whole thing back up to everybody's, obsession on a. I always look at it. Where does it? Because it's always popular, but where does it become like news reports are about Pokemon, right? Where it crawls into like, I hear something about this Pokemon Go game from my parents.
That was summer of 2016, wasn't it?
That seems about right.
So
That seems about right.
Yeah. It was weird for Pokemon to become suddenly like extremely important to a bunch of college students, because I was at college at this point, and I'd finished like rehearsal for like a summertime show out doing theater, and then you would hear people yelling across campus that there's a Vulpix in the practice field for the football team, and watching 20-somethings race down a side street to go catch a virtual, a bunch of pixels, right?
But there was something magical about that because it was so indicative of the spirit of Pokemon. Because part of the magic, it's part of the thing that captured people about this franchise is, what if your imaginary friends were these animals that you could find out in the grass? And what if you could bring it? And then they did it, and then they did it.
No, I mean that's similar. Once again, just even as an outsider, just being like, I mean, that's brilliant. These are amazing ideas, and yeah, that I mean, once again, as always, people took things too far, of course. But it's they've been very clever about reinventing themselves and finding ways to make themselves popular.
Yes and no.
Well, I mean, at least as an outsider, that the fact that it can rise back up to that level of popularity, after its sort of peak when we were kids, at least in America.
I don't think that was the peak. I think that was the start. I don't know, like Pokemon. It's really tough to talk about Pokemon because it's so sprawling of a franchise. Like, we haven't even really touched about the card game outside of like briefly mentioning it, but they've got vending machines for the Pokemon card game in safe ways.
Yeah, the cards are a huge thing, and I've been in the Targets where they're like, please limit amount, and it's behind the counter because people were like, hitting each other trying to get cards and stuff like that, and destroying sections of stores. No, the
Pokemon is single-handedly the most successful multimedia franchise in the world, and I don't know if anything will ever top it.
I mean, it's interesting because of because I think when you add in something like the card game, that's, even though there are other card games, that's very hard to manufacture that level of obsession.
No collectible card game even gets close. And I'm a Magic the Gathering player. Magic is big, but it's nothing on Pokemon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's very hard to just make that happen, right? Like, I've got a new card game, I'll just make a new Pokemon. And it's like, yeah, I don't see that happening. And that's all. And that's a thing that even other massive franchises, there is a Star Wars card game, and Star Wars obviously dominates a lot of the media landscape, but they don't have that.
And Star Wars doesn't have the like all ages-ness, because like obviously Star Wars is a thing people have grown up with,
Yeah.
but like there are so many 30 somethings and 40 somethings that like Pokemon's just been the thing their whole lives. Star Wars had fallow period
Yeah.
in like
Yeah.
the late 90s and like the mid aughts before the Disney takeover. Like there Star Wars has it got a like a rise and fall to it. Pokemon has been there the whole time, man.
I mean, and to the points where, like I said, at least, you know, from more the outside perspective, that when I talk about maybe like when I was saying like peaks, or it's not that it had fallow periods, but then there are times when it becomes all domination of culture. Like when we talk about like with the Pokemon Go, there are times when it goes from being massively popular to all consuming worldwide. You know, it's wild. It is a crazy thing. And once again, I have this different perspective on it, having never really engaged with much of it, that it is always like, oh, wow. So that's where I can sort of be like, oh, if everybody's talking about it again, that's just coming from just mainstream media in a way that, you know, even non-fans are now finding a new way into it and stuff like that. So I think similar to, I think Star Wars is maybe the more, or now Marvel are close in terms of like, they're so ubiquitous that everybody's at least a little familiar with Pokemon, right? Like I said, I think everyone can recognize, and that makes sense when we turn it to this movie specifically. Everyone can recognize Pikachu.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think that was that, but the all leading to this movie is my point, because I will say that's for being, as you bring up, Gorgone, this incredible multimedia, you know, obsession. They have had movies, but they've been animated movies that, at least in America, were, you know, varying degrees of success. I mean, that first one hit, at the exact right moment, right?
The first one and the second one, I would say, are probably the
Pokemon
biggest.
2000.
Yeah, those were.
Pokemon the movie 2000 was big.
And I remember those, you know, charting in the top box office, right? Like people went to those.
Yeah.
But I would say that the in the movie space, they haven't dominated as much as they have in the other spaces. So that's why I think this movie is really interesting, that they chose this moment and that they chose to make this movie.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the Detective Pikachu of it all, because Detective Pikachu is in of itself an adaptation of not only Pokemon, but also a very specific Pokemon spin-off game called Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Not even an old one, too.
It came out like 2 years before this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I gathered, they were made. So, okay, here, I was talking to you, Gorgone, that I was getting background on this movie before we started recording. And so the movie was announced in 2016. Like, so that's like this at the same time that the game is coming out, right? Like,
well, no, the game comes out in Japan in 2016.
Gotcha.
It doesn't get a worldwide release until 2018.
Okay.
Though the development on Detective Pikachu starts in like 2013-ish.
Right. So the idea is that the Pokemon Company, and you were saying this beforehand, and it is worth noting, the Pokemon Company is a separate entity from Nintendo, even though I think people just glom them together in their heads, because Nintendo is where you play Pokemon.
Because lest we gel over it entirely, the Pokemon Company is the large gestalt entity that controls the franchise in its totality. Game Freak is the production studio that creates Pokemon games, and Nintendo is the large video game company that licenses all of that and puts it on their platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Just to separate all of those entities.
Right. So the Pokemon Company specifically, I guess, at some point during the initial release of it in Japan, as you're saying, went to Legendary Pictures and said, would you have interest in making a Pokemon movie? Specifically, though, it would have to be a Detective Pikachu movie. So I think it's very interesting that they identified I'm sure there was always interest in making a Pokemon movie because, you know, Hollywood likes money. There's a hot take. But specifically they went, hey, we'll let you make a movie of Pokemon, but it's going to have to be this movie. And I think that's interesting that they identified, like, I guess if there were to be a movie, this feels like the right live action movie.
Reed, did you ever play the Detective Pikachu game for the 3DS?
No. I at that point in my life, I think I had like kind of moved away from all of the like offshoot games and just became a strictly mainline new gen Pokemon player. I think Mystery Dungeon was like the last time I'd been like, oh, okay, let's see what other things are going on here.
Because this game was released around the same time as Sun and Moon in Japan. And then by the time it got to the US, we're dealing with like Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, the remakes of Red and Blue that got released on the Switch. And then the year this movie comes out, we have Sword and Shield. And I think actually Sword and Shield was the last true gen that I played, because like I fell hard, like I bounced so hard off of Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah, I think that's what Sword and Shield should be Gen 5, and I'm pretty sure there are Gen 5.
Oh, it's more
Pokemon.
than 5. I think that's like 9.
All right, fellas, back to this movie. But yeah, I mean, let me just say, when this movie was announced, I think I remember talking to you, Gorgone, and maybe even you, Reed, about like, interesting that you're like, they're making a Pokemon movie, which that would not have thrown me. I would be like, of course. But the idea that it's like, and it's going to be Detective Pikachu. I didn't even know that was a game, but I was like, oh, okay. And then I think there was a lot of like, there seemed to be a real like, huh. Not an outrage, but just more like, that's unexpected from the fan base that I could perceive. Am I correct in that?
I think the big question mark that got raised by a lot of people when they announced Detective Pikachu specifically was the fact that when you hear that they're developing a narrative Pokemon movie, you expect it to follow certain like pillars of the franchise. One of those is lots of Pokemon. The other one is catching those Pokemon. The third one is battling those Pokemon.
Yeah.
And by picking Detective Pikachu, you're immediately getting rid of 2 of those 3 pillars.
I mean, in the movie, we ended up seeing yes and no, right? Because they still do all those things in the movie. It's just that's not the main focus of the movie.
Which I think, in hindsight, is incredibly smart.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big thing that they were like, I mean, the Pokemon company reading about, they were like expressly clear, no Ash in this movie. And even nixed the idea of this main character wearing a ball cap at some point. They're like, nope, too familiar looking.
Again, they have that whole thing with what's the actor's name? Taran Sunny at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
where it's like
yeah.
he looks like the archetypical Pokemon trainer with the hat and the backpack and the vest.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's if you hadn't seen any of the trailers, you might assume that you're going to follow that character. You know, so it's very, and I was saying to you, Gorgone, before this too, as well, that like reading about this, there were very strict rules from the Pokemon company about how the characters were presented, what they were allowed to look like, how the vibe of the movie, the world it's set in. Like one of the main rules was like you can only real world them so much, no matter how threatening they may be in the plot. They have to remain quote unquote cute on some level. That's that's in our that's in the DNA of the franchise. I think they felt
getting these, because let's get into the meat of this movie.
Yeah.
In terms of like, this movie lives and dies on, do the Pokemon look good?
Yes.
Thoughts on, do these Pokemon look good?
I think they look pretty good. Yeah,
they look good.
And I guess here's the dividing line between Reed and I and John is we're having things that live in our heads nonstop from our wee baby childhoods.
Yeah.
Coming alive on a screen, and you're like, yeah, they look okay.
They look okay, and I will say, and here was my point too. I think this movie is fun. And I will say that's huge though, because I would have watched this movie being like, I have zero interest. So the fact that I'm like, oh yeah, I think it's all right. I probably won't be ever turning it on again. But that's neither here nor there. But but in terms of the actual like quality of the film, it's a well-made movie. I think it looks good. I think across the board it is well shot. I think it's pretty decently paced. I think it has just enough character work to like not make me turn away from it. It doesn't bombard you with the world of Pokemon, even though it is clearly set in the world of Pokemon, but I never felt like, what the fuck is going on? Like some of this, like Warcraft, where there were times when the last time Reed was on the show, we were talking about Warcraft, and that movie has a lot of stuff where I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm actually struggling to follow parts of this movie or who all these people are. This movie does not do that. And I think to your point, Gorgone, that's what's really smart about the idea of it is a story that seeds through the world of Pokemon. It is not the story of the world of Pokemon.
Well, I think one of the things that gets called out in the movie is that specifically one of the characters, Mewtwo, is referenced to having emerged 20 years prior,
right?
Which in real world time, that's when Pokemon, 1999, the movie came out and Mewtwo became a thing, and so they're wanting to reference things and have it exist in a world, all of that other content still exists. This is not mutually exclusive from all of those things. So you can watch this as all one cohesive thing, right. Which I think is really smart, because the people they're wanting to come see this stuff have probably seen and consumed all of this other content constantly, and it fits right into that world that everyone's so comfortable with already.
But on the reverse of that too, when you make a movie like this, you're also counting on getting people who don't know it, and the movie isn't so inside baseball that it's going to exclude just general audiences who are bringing their kids or whatever. I mean, they really made a movie that you could at least engage with, and then enjoy to each individual person's level of engagement with it. And I think that's a big reason why this thing was successful when a lot of other stuff hasn't been. And then I think that's followed up with the Sonic movies as well. It's interesting, right? There were a bunch of different ways to do Pokemon. They kind of go left of center, at least from what people would expect. And that ends up being, I would say, whether or not I personally love the movie, objectively the right call as a piece of media.
Well, it's interesting you talk about the world of Pokemon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, what even is the world of Pokemon? I talked about those 3 pillars of, like, what makes a Pokemon in terms of, like, people's expectations. But the setting isn't really one of those things. Like, the world and, like, the proper nouns of things in a world, unlike Warcraft, which has a lot of proper nouns that we got to deal with.
Right.
Pokemon, there's a town you start out in, and it always has a different name. There's a town you go to that is like the big metropolis city that you always go to. It always has a different name. In this one, it's Rhyme City. And that's that is an invention of this film.
Oh, I see. That's interesting, because I assume that was where most of the stuff takes place. Just because of, number one, how much they say it. I just assumed, this must be a thing where people are like, hey, it's Rhyme City. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no. That's... each Pokemon game, or at least each subsequent generation, which, by the way, yes, Sword and Shield was Gen 8, so Scarlet and Violet was Gen 9.
Gorgone was just sitting there waiting to drop that in.
No, that's why he had to
I looked it up. It would have bothered me if I hadn't.
Yeah. I know.
That was it. Gen 5.
Yeah.
Each subsequent generation takes place in a different continent, essentially. There is no cohesive world, quote unquote, of Pokemon. If you tried to make a world map of like every continent that Pokemon has taken place in, people have tried. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, I guess when I say world, I mean universe, or like conceptual ideas, right? As you talk about those pillars, right? This idea about this is an alternate reality where these creatures exist and people catch them and fight them and stuff like that. But you're also bringing, I think to your point, it sounds like the idea is like it inherently is less Gleep Glop contingent as something like Warcraft, that you can engage, that in some ways they were freed of having those expectations.
Yeah, because the baggage people need to bring into this movie to like have a better understanding of it, for lack of a better term, I guess, is just those pillars of there are lots of Pokemon, you catch them, you fight them. If you know those three things, you can engage with any Pokemon story.
Yeah. I mean, and so the thing about this movie then being, and the thing about, like I said, everybody knows Pikachu, who is essentially the corporate mascot, right, of Pokemon, right? If Mickey Mouse and stuff is Disney, Pikachu is the representative of Pokemon, I feel like. Am I correct?
Should have been Clefairy.
I don't know whether or not it should have been.
Should have been.
I don't know about what. I'm
mean,
not speaking should have been. I'm just talking about is.
It's either Pikachu, Jigglypuff, or like.
Who gets the balloon at the Macy's parade is all I'm talking about.
No. In the real world, yes, you're correct, John.
Yeah.
Pikachu is the mascot.
Yeah.
My point about that is like, also
there's a famous apocryphal story of like the designs for Pikachu and this other Pokemon called Clefairy switched like early in development.
Interesting. Because and it makes sense because Pikachu is, and you can get into it, but like feels designed in that way, right? He feels like he is supposed to be or they are. I don't know what because I only recently discovered that Pikachu is not
different genders, male or female.
Look, I only somewhat recently learned that Pikachu is not an individual, so it's a type of thing. I thought there was just a character Pikachu.
Pokemon is a different species unto itself.
Okay. But I'm saying my point. All this is to lead. If they're going to call the movie something, putting Pikachu in the title is smart because it's certainly like Pokemon and Pikachu go together to the public that isn't buying all these games. If they're just going to the movies, you're like, okay, got it. And Detective.
How many of us had an older relative that said like, "Oh, you like those Pikachus?"
Yeah, it's got the Dracula thing, right? The thing about like, oh man, this castle's full of Draculas, or whatever, right? Like the whole thing about like the individual becomes the brand. But the thing about it, I'm saying is like that's another reason why I think just from a branding standpoint, Detective Pikachu was a smart decision because you're just like got it, and also Detective immediately implies a genre that it's in. And also, that's another smart decision, which we've talked about a lot with, like, superhero movies as well, right? It's like, okay, it's a superhero movie. What does that mean? Is superhero a genre? No, it's really more of an aesthetic. So the idea about this is a Pokemon movie, that's a detective story. It's a mystery on some level. Got it. All of this, and then when you see him in the little Sherlock hat, that's a $100 million in toy sales.
Put a deer stalker on this electric mouse and call it a day.
So smart.
In the
first time that sentence has been uttered.
Except in the boardrooms of the Pokemon.
Detective Pikachu is wearing like the big like mist coat with the mantle over the shoulders.
God, wow, he's wearing the cloak too.
Uh-huh.
Oh wow, I haven't seen that. That's wild. I think this is the better design for the movie. And then
simplified.
I don't know. Okay, I will say watching this movie in 2025 is a little different than watching in 2019 when it comes to the Ryan Reynolds of it all. To me, at least. Maybe that's just me. But the idea at the time was like genius. Pikachu
they put Deadpool in a kids movie,
right? And I will say, I was watching it going like he is Deadpooling in this movie. There are so many things where I'm like, boy, that is such a Deadpool line. That maybe was distracting in places to me watching it. Because I went, oh look, they've got Ryan Reynolds to Ryan Reynolds. The big, was it fans? I don't know who really, the big push for Danny DeVito to play Detective Pikachu. Do you guys know where that originated? Was that purely
not
just
played the Detective Pikachu game?
Yeah,
I have. Maybe there's something in the game itself that's just like, oh yes, he's doing a Danny DeVito-esque style character. I don't know.
Reading the background on this, there seemed to be a lot of people who were really disappointed that it wasn't Danny DeVito as the voice of Pikachu. And I will
So-
say
It's
that would have been
thing.
funny.
Part of that comes from that Detective Pikachu is one of the first Pokemon games ever, which says something, that it was released in like 2016 and the franchise starts in 1997. It was one of the first games to feature voice acting at all.
Mm.
And I believe the Danny DeVito thing comes from the original Japanese voice actor kind of doing a
Like a
noir
Jersey
thing.
Yeah, like a detective. Because I mean, I do get. I will say, just from watching the movie, I do
But
get
in
the
Japanese, obviously, he's not speaking English.
right,
so
right,
he's
right,
like,
right, right.
Oh, konniwa.
No, even still, you defaulted to a more Japanese accent there, because it's very hard to imagine that voice with Japanese words. I mean, it's not impossible because somebody did it, but
It's Toshiro Mifune. Like,
yeah,
once he gets a little bit of gravel in his voice.
I mean, and that would make sense with the aesthetic, right? If he had been like, yeah, I'm a cop, and I'm a cop on the streets. So I get that, and it does feel, I think now, especially in the post Chris Pratt voices everything world, it does feel maybe a little bit more like they just went and got him. Because when you also see that the other people considered for the voice of Pikachu were Dwayne Johnson, Mark Wahlberg, and Hugh Jackman, you're like, so you were going for name, not like who fits this character super well, right? Like, I'm Marky Mark. It's me. It's Pikachu. I mean, that's the one that is the funniest to imagine, right? Hey, look over here. I'm an adorable little yellow creature. All right, I'm done. But
I've got red cheeks and
yeah.
I shoot electricity out of my butt.
This is crazy. I think I'm also the spirit of your dad. I don't know how it happened. It's nuts. But yeah, I mean, I will just say it's like those are all very different actors, and it was just sort of like who's hot right now, right? Like, and I think he's fine. I mean, once again, I'm not saying it ruined the movie, but I will just say, like, I was watching this with just a very much like, that is Ryan Reynolds, and he is Ryan Reynoldsing all over this movie. He's doing
That's like every Ryan Reynolds performance post Deadpool.
It certainly is. It's just the juxtaposition of that as Pikachu was a little interesting to watch for me. I don't know. How do you guys feel about Ryan Reynolds as Detective Pikachu? And of course, he's not, obviously, as always, spoilers for these movies, he ends up being the human cop partner whose consciousness, I guess, for lack of a better word, do they have a specific Pokemon term for this, or is transferred into Pikachu?
Total invention of this
right, yeah.
film is the whole like swapping of souls thing.
Yeah, I'll call it a Katra just to bring my Star Trek fandom into this. But the life essence of Ryan Reynolds' detective character is in Pikachu, and only our main character can hear him sound like Ryan Reynolds, right?
Right, which is a thing from the games, and the whole like the Pikachu is his dad thing.
That's from the game too?
I believe is from the game as well.
Okay.
The original Detective Pikachu game.
I mean, that the second they didn't show his father's face, I'm like, so Ryan Reynolds is his dad. And that's fine. It's a family all ages movie, so we don't need to get too in depth into twists and turns. I'm not expecting that. But yeah, we let's talk about our main character here, whose name is what?
Tim Goodman.
Oh man,
because he's the main character.
Right.
Get it?
Yeah.
He's a Goodman.
Yeah, and his father Harry Goodman. And
he's also a good guy.
Yeah, he's looking for his father. Who does he think his father's dead or just missing? He's missing.
It's the whole reason he gets pulled to Rhyme City is because he's been told his dad is dead.
His dad is dead by, I will just say though, a criminally underused Ken Watanabe. Could have used more Ken Watanabe. Love that guy.
Ken Watanabe interacting with a Snubble.
Oh, is great.
Large Stitchy Snubble.
Agreed. Is great.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. My only note is more Ken Watanabe. It's not what he does is great, and that scene is very funny.
Fun fact about my personal DVD / Blu-ray shelf.
Yeah,
it's gonna make John squirm in his chair. Is that I organize it via franchise, not by any like alphabetical order that one could parse.
Okay. Are the franchises in alphabetical order?
Nope, not even a little bit. It's in order of how much I watch it.
Then this is chaos. I was like,
So-
if he's organized by franchise, that's fine, as long as like it's Batman, then something, then no.
Nope,
All right,
not even a little bit.
then you've described chaos, sir.
Do you keep it
because-
like the primary stuff at eye level? That way you're looking at it all the time?
Yeah,
or is there-
100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
I don't,
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, as I said,
And
yeah.
so the films of Clint Eastwood were right next to my Pokemon movies for reasons I can't describe. And so Letters from Iwo Jima and Detective Pikachu, I was like, oh, I've got two Watanabe movies right next to each other of varying qualities.
It will not shock you to say that I own one of those movies and not the other one, and I think you know which is which.
It was the Barbenheimer combo that we didn't know we wanted.
It was Detective Pikachu and a very sad movie about World War II. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So yes, he comes to the city, and of course, like I said, the quote unquote world of this movie that I do think is very smart is that in that Star Warsy kind of way, this movie just throws you in. Here's a world. You are seeing, oh, there are these Pokemon about, and people are just acting like that's normal. So you go like, got it. That's where we are. And some people have them as,
like I said,
as
Rhyme
pets.
City, this like
Yeah.
Pokepunk city. I'd call it a cyberpunk city because like clearly this like high-rise neon drenched like ads everywhere, but like it's kind of pleasant, unlike a cyberpunk dystopia.
It's definitely cribbing on Blade Runner, but brighter, poppier, more family friendly. Because this movie is a mystery, but it's not going to get too dark. That comes from its it's gonna get up to a certain point, and that's fine.
But aesthetically, it's definitely cribbing on like Tokyo neo noir is the vibe.
Yeah, and like I said, and the particularly the aesthetics of something like a Blade Runner that is also a detective story set in this futuristic kind of city. I'm sure that was brought into discussion amongst tons of games and pieces of art and that sort of stuff. But yeah, as you bring up, it is brightened up a little bit. And so yeah, he goes there because he's been told his father's dead, and he sort of sets out and ends up investigating the mystery along with what he believes to, which is both his father and his father's partner that was this Pikachu detective.
Correct.
Who was already wearing
Detective
the little,
Pikachu, if you will.
Yeah, who was already wearing the little hat just in general.
I believe how far back into the games does like giving Pokemon items? That's a Gen 2 thing, I want to say. Like it's really early on, but like giving Pokemon little items like hats and stuff, that goes back.
Oh yeah.
I will
gotta
say
be Gen 2 because that's how you get Scizor and stuff.
The scene where he goes into his father's apartment and the movie that's playing on the TV, that stood out to me because it's not a real movie. It's Angels with Dirty Souls, which is the fake gangster movie that they watch in Home Alone.
100%.
You filthy
I
animal.
did not notice that.
Yeah.
I always assumed that movie was real.
No,
No,
it's
that movie is a riff on
Angels with Dirty Faces.
Dirty Faces,
Yeah, Angels Dirty, which is a real old gangster movie. That Angels with Dirty Souls was something Chris Columbus shot as a fake movie within Home Alone. And according to the trivia of this, they put it in there as a placeholder, and everyone thought it was so funny that they actually sought out the rights to that footage and put it in the movie. And so I was like, that's like a hat on a hat, because he's like, you always watch these old detective movies, like, but he's watching a fake old detective movie from another beloved like family movie. So that's the one Easter egg that I got. I was like, got it. That's a Home Alone reference. Anyway,
when I saw that, I was thinking there might be some like way in which this 6 degrees of separation gets back to the production of Home Alone. No, not at all.
Reed's sitting in the theater with a notepad going, Home Alone connection question? It's the Charlie Day meme of you going, it all adds up. Yeah. Anyway.
Speaking of Easter eggs,
yeah,
like what you've like skipped past, which is totally understandable for you, John Campbell, but what is like all consuming for me when I'm sitting in the theater is the minute we hit Rhyme City
Yeah.
and we expand outward in this like metropolis of Pokemon. Suddenly I'm wishing there was a pause button in the movie theater so I could pick apart all of my little guys.
Oh, that makes 100%. Like I said, it's one of those things, and this is it's interesting when I watch something like this or a movie I like more, but I think is a similar thing that I'm not like obviously as obsessed with as you or even at all, is Dungeons and Dragons, where both of these movies I sat there watching going, I know that there's that stuff. I can see they're making a movie that contains all those Easter eggs. But it's an interesting experience for me as somebody who's used to being the guy watching a Marvel movie going, oh, it's that thing and this thing and this thing and that. And I'm sure now I'm like, oh, now I understand what other people think when they're like, what's he on about? And I'm like, they mentioned the Rand Corporation.
But what I like that this movie does is it just sort of sinks you into the hustle and bustle of the cityscape. It doesn't say, oh, that is a Snorlax sleeping in that intersection causing a traffic jam.
No, he's
a big sleepy guy, and then there's a guy with a bunch of hands directing traffic.
That would be death in this movie if you had people going like, all right, pay attention, kid, because that thing over there is a, then that would instantly be, I would shut my brain off and go, oh my God. The idea that I don't know what any of these things are called, but like, yeah, the big sleeping guy, I thought that was funny. I thought that when they went to the TV studio that there's just a big furry guy asleep in the corner. I'm like, that's just like goofy in like a Muppetsy way, I don't need that to be a reference. That's that Star Wars-y thing where it's like, yeah, I don't know what that thing is called, but look at that design. That's fun. That's interesting. That made me laugh.
Reed, I don't know. What is your take on, like, does this movie ride that nice edge of exploiting, ooh, I know that thing, and also, like, not dwelling on it too much? Because I think it, like, does it perfectly, in my opinion.
I think it does a great job of it because it never tells you to look for any of those things. You are actively looking for those things as a person who enjoys this, like at least from your and my perspective. I'm wanting to find what the real life version of a Vulpix is, or like I see a character and I go, oh, that's awesome. That's exactly what I was thinking. And then seeing those without them making a huge joke about it makes me feel good and treats me like I'm discovering something rather than them jamming stuff down my throat for it to be funny or a goof or whatnot. So yeah, I think it rides a really fine line of, here's a thing that you probably know, but I'm not going to give you every single one of these things. I'm going to give you a handful of things.
And like
instead
I said,
of it just being a mountain of it, because it would be endless. There's so much.
I think I read.
Well, we'd have to stop the movie for 15 minutes to do the poke rap, right?
Yeah,
100%. I think I read in the IMDb that there are 60 individual Pokemon in the movie, like types of Pokemon in the movie.
I mean, that's a pretty low number considering the vast quantity of Pokemon, but that's.
I think that's what I read.
Not surprising.
That this movie, if you're looking, even if they're some are just in the background, that you can count 60 individual like Pokemon designs in it, something like that. But I think you're correct, Reed, in that I can say it as a person who only recognizes some of these things, is that I wasn't sitting there going like, oh my God. I was just going like, I bet that's a thing that Reed and Gorgone will know, but I'm able to just like go like, oh, that's cool, or that's fun, or that's adorable, and then the movie just keeps going with its own plot. It doesn't ever halt and make it feel like, that I will say, even some superhero movies I like do that, when Wonder Woman is just going through video files of Justice League members in Batman v Superman.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. When Batman v Superman stops to do 3 trailers for different movies. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to get too upset because I was like, that's Aquaman. But, I understand that objectively that should not be.
How many Pokemon do you think, John, you could name?
Oh, man. It's single digits.
It's single digits.
I think so. I mean, really, like if I did it right now, and I just watched this movie last night.
If it's that low, I'd want you to do it right now. Yes.
I mean, Pikachu,
You've got time.
Charizard, Squirtle, Mewtwo.
Mm-hmm.
Is there also a Charmander?
There is.
That's
5.
I think that's Oh, Mr. Mime, but that's only because of this movie.
Okay. Sure. 6.
I think that might be the end for me.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And then there are because then you get into there's the grumpy thing that's on Watanabe's desk, and there's the sleeping thing that you just said, and I've already forgotten. Yeah. I just don't. It's just not my thing. But I can tell you, every fucking alien race,
John,
Snorlax.
you
That makes
should
sense.
know
I knew it
this.
was something with a snore. But that's just, once again, when you speak to, it's just not my thing. I can fucking go all day about Star Trek aliens. But but that's just, it's just to where each.
Quick, John. Who are all the founding species of the Federation?
Oh, you're talking about the Andorians, the Vulcans, the humans, and the fuck, the pig people.
The
Fuck.
ones everyone forgets.
It's always the one, and it's the fuck, I can't think of it. Do you know it offhand, Gorgone? It's the
No, because I know all the first 150 Pokemon.
yeah.
I don't have room in my
It's
brain.
it's the because Jenkem Pog from Prodigy is a member of that species. Oh,
Yeah.
fuck. I can't.
Got him.
Yeah. To
Yeah,
be
that's
fair,
the tally board.
they are.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, yeah, I really feel quite shamed. Now I'm gonna look it up and be like, a fucking course. I will say they are very underrepresented in Star Wars or in Star Trek.
Yeah,
It
for
is
sure.
crazy. Tellarites.
Tellarites.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Gamorreans, but that's a Star Wars thing.
Yeah, that's the pig people of Star
Different
Wars.
pig people.
Yeah, that's the pig people of Star Wars. Yeah. Yeah, it is crazy though for being founding members of the Federation. They are in 2 of the shows ever. It's really Jenkem Pog is the most important Tellarite we've ever had, and he's in one of the most recent shows. So anyway, sorry, that's Star Trek
But
talk.
to counterbalance that,
But that was the thing. Was
Reed, were there
yeah.
any
Oh, yeah, go
Pokemon
ahead.
in this movie that you saw and go, I had to look that one up?
No.
Yeah.
And see, so this is my friend group, right? Recently, and this is 2 weeks ago, we went through the entire Pokemon Pokédex, all 1,025 Pokemon, trying to determine our own personal favorites, and it was so difficult. And so
hard, man.
it's constantly kind of reiterated in my brain of all of these different designs and going, oh, that's good, that's bad. And I don't think, at least in this one, there's anything that is unrecognizable compared to what they look like in 2D animation or normal game animation. So
No, because as John was saying, Pokemon Company had some strict rules about there is a specific style and silhouette to Pokemon that makes them kind of unmistakable. The art style we see during the beginning of the end credits of this movie is so specific to Pokemon at this point that if somebody else is doing an animation or a drawing in that style, I go, oh, in the Pokemon style. That's how much of an iconography that has. And that goes back to the first little booklet that came with Pokemon. That was illustrations by some of the people who made that game early on, who get writing credits in this, which is Satoshi Tajiri and Ken Sugimori.
They have created by credits, or
they created Pokemon.
Yeah.
Because who's the third one? It's basically the 3 founders of Game Freak. Satoshi Tajiri, Ken Sugimori, and Junichi Masuda.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, I'm sure to a lot of people that's when somebody mentions Stanley and Jack Kirby to me, right? It's. But that, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm looking for where I got that number about 60 to see if I was right about that, but I'm pretty sure I remembered that correctly.
I think that's right, because we see a lot of repeats of certain Pokemon. If they tried to go at much higher, I'm sure the back end, like post-production of this movie, was already insane.
Yeah, I mean, you
If
got to
they
think.
tried to jam like anything post 100, I feel like that is such a huge ask.
For sure, because you're talking about if you've already done a character, you can use that character model in different sections of the movie. Where if you had to have 100+ individual, Jesus, that would be a lot.
And like Reed's saying, at this point in the franchise, there are over 1,000 of these little buggers.
And a lot of the stuff we've talked about too is in like wide shots where like a bunch of them are, obviously like. I will say that the you talk about, do things look good? Pikachu definitely does. There's the scene where he gets pulled out of the water, and I was just going like, God, the wet fur on Pikachu, because I know how hard that is. And they talked about, and this makes sense, that they pulled a lot of the tech that was used to create Rocket Raccoon to work on Pikachu, which makes so much sense. That a lot of that, the fur tech and stuff on that is very much very similar. And I will say he looks it. He looks good. He feels real. And I think that continues in the Sonic movies as well. That like as these movies continue, that when you talk about this movie's made or broken by the Pokemon, specifically Pikachu, because you have to really buy that this is a two-hander between this live-action human character and this CGI Pokemon, and I do.
We haven't really talked about Justice Smith much.
Yeah, I will say it's. I mean, I like Justice Smith, not as an act, but like the character is the protagonist. Not a bad character, but I will say he's probably the least defined character. Because like even when you get to Catherine Newton's character, she's like a His Girl Friday kind of Lois Laney reporter type, right? She talks fast. She does this. We got it. Bop 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 down. Very noir. He is just like, I'm a young guy looking for my dad. And I think they hired a good actor, which makes all the difference. I think he's given a better thing to do in Dungeons and Dragons, where I think he's great. But
That's true.
But I think
where
here
he plays the like fumbling sorcerer.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that's a more defined character. I think here he's appropriately earnest. I think he plays all of his scenes really well. But I'm not like blown away by anything in this specific performance. He carries the movie well enough.
Especially considering he's acting against a CG co-actor.
Which is
and
deceptively hard.
Yeah, I think the other thing too, this may have been a product of that same kind of like, hey, Pokemon has to be fun and cute, and they are dealing with specific materials that may not be fun and cute, and then them going, yeah, we can't have Justice Smith like having a full-blown emotional breakdown next to Pikachu. That's not the look we're going for. Let's dial it back, and then which gives us a performance that may not hit all of the hallmarks of a something very emotional. Very strenuous.
You've just hit on what my issue with the movie is, and it's not even that I think it's bad, because I understand everything you're saying. But what kept me from getting too engaged in the movie is at every turn I knew that there was no real danger. And I'm not even talking about the thing. Of course, I don't think Pikachu's going to die, nor do I want him to. But, like, even when we get to the scary Pokemon, they are still kind of cute. So I'm like, I'm not particularly threatened by them. And the emotion only gets so much. So the movie kept me at a distance, which, even if I intellectually understand it, but I had a hard time really, like, engaging with these characters. I would go like, oh, that was a well-done action set piece. But I'm not, like, thrilled by it.
If there's one thing we know about John Campbell, it's that about his dislike of whimsy, and this movie is very whimsical. I
like Guillermo del Toro's whimsy because it comes with darkness, or Tim Burton's. I mean, I think there is but yes, I can struggle sometimes with things that are purposely like family friendly in a way to a certain extent. And I'm not saying that I want everything to be like a gore fest, but just in terms of like the stakes. And like
you never feel like even the most dangerous Pokemon in this movie, which I guess would be like the Greninja squad that's like hunting them when they're escaping the lab. That's the closest to like monsters in this movie that could actually like, because Mewtwo is presented in like he seems like a threat because of his power level, right? But those Mewtwo is like otherworldly and alien,
right?
And Greninja is like deadly frog ninjas that will murder you.
But once again, I don't, because I want this stated. Like, people are like, what are you expecting? I don't expect this, but like, I never really believed they were going to chew someone apart, and I don't expect to see it. But I should at least feel that they are wanting to. That's my thing. And once again, I don't hold that against the movie. I'm just stating why I was at a distance from it. I don't think anyone made a bad decision here. This all makes sense.
The deadliest Pokemon in this movie, from a like visceral, real possibility of we're dying, are the giant Torterra, and that is not due to their actions, other than simply standing up for a second.
Right. And I said,
the scale of which is huge.
Oh, it's
that
ridiculous.
Scene is insane.
And so that's where I'm saying I think that's where that plus me not having a love of this world just keeps me from like loving this movie, and instead going like, hey, that was pretty well done. Because that's where I'm at. I'm not mad about this movie. I think this is a way better movie than something like Warcraft, just in terms of like as an engaging story with a 3-act structure and character arcs. But I'm more watching it going like, yeah, solid. Yeah, that's, I'm not crying at the end. I'm just going like, yeah, that's an effective emotional payoff.
You know what really like solidifies that for this movie though? And something that is good when any movie does it.
Mm-hmm.
And that is putting Bill Nye in your film as an actor who will buy 1,000% into whatever ridiculous premise you stick him in.
He will. He doesn't actually have a lot to do, but he does have weight on screen, gravitas. And that is true. One of the funniest things I read in the background was, prior to making this movie, Bill Nye had no knowledge of the Pokemon franchise. I'm like, that's the least surprising thing I've ever read. But to your point, he got every guidebook, everything about it, to which I'm like, to the point of like, I don't actually think you needed to do any of that, but that's like an actor prepares, right?
Look, when you hire Davy Jones to show up on your movie, he's going to show up.
We will, I swear, I have talked about doing a Pirates season of IP Squad, and you can hear me talk all day about how I fucking love that performance. How much he comes through squid CGI is astounding to me. Or
like we've talked about him over on Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters in the Underworld franchise.
I will say I would have.
That is a franchise that like is decidedly medium, but is elevated by some great actors.
You have some great
Bill
actors
Nye is in the center of it.
Committing full on to sheer stupidity. Like some of those movies are dumb. But you're like, well, if Derek Jacobi is saying it, though, I don't. Charles Dance kind of makes me believe this nonsense about super blood or whatever, Okay. Yeah, I mean that it is and I will say
Michael Sheen seems really invested in this, so am I.
Oh my God, Michael Sheen leading a werewolf revolution in medieval times is still one of the best things. Shirtless. Oh, when he has the sex scene where he hangs off the cliff in that movie is one of the greatest things committed to film. It's for sure. And actually, I think across the board, the casting is really good in this movie because of that. I think the guy who plays Bill Nye's son is really good.
Chris Gere.
Yeah, he was on a really good show called You're the Worst that was on FX. That is a million miles away from this in terms of maturity level. But
was also on 26 episodes of the Kung Fu Panda animated series.
Yeah, that would be closer to. I will say, I was looking at, because I was curious about Rob Letterman, who directed this movie and has a writing credit on it, to the Kung Fu Panda of it all. Was a DreamWorks guy. But I think that makes sense. He directed Shark Tale and Monsters vs. Aliens. Shark Tale, I'm whatever about Shark Tale, but I think Monsters vs. Aliens is one of the better DreamWorks movies.
Shark Tale had the unfortunate timing of being released pretty close to Finding Nemo, and so there were two competing fish movies,
and one of
which was vastly superior.
Yeah, whereas Monsters vs. Aliens is my jam, right? Because it's them, mimicking B movies of the 50s and stuff like that. which is, pretty clever. But then he directed back-to-back Jack Black vehicles, Gulliver's Travels and Goosebumps.
This guy's kind of got a little, just reading his IMDb list, he's got a bit of ownership over Goosebumps because he was also directed 4 episodes of the newer Goosebumps TV show that came out.
Yeah, he did.
Years ago.
Yeah. I mean, and I will say all of that is, and this movie is better than those, but all of that, I understand why they hired this guy. You know what I mean? Like, I think he knows how to make all ages, effects-driven movies that kids will want to see and parents won't mind taking them to.
That
also
so important to so many successful family films.
And yes, absolutely. And I'm talking about that from the selling point, because there's the childless men in their 30s like you two who were going to go no matter what because it said Pokemon, right? They knew they had that audience. You hire a guy like this to go can we just get the people with kids who need something for them to do on the weekend, right? There's always the core audience, but we've learned from many a movie that the core audience, even if it's a hugely popular thing, does not make a movie successful.
You were just talking about Star Trek, John.
It's true. My lesson to Paramount was stop spending that much on those movies. I saw Star Trek Beyond 3 times in the theater. All right? Look, I saw it in every format they put it in. But it's that we're a rare breed.
There are tens of us.
Yeah, yeah. Never nudes. There are dozens of us. Anyway, yeah. So I think, like I said, everything in this movie, and I hate to sound like the guy on this show. I have become the guy in this episode who is just going I applaud the corporate synergy and IP, the driven of this. This thing really checked all the boxes when it came to appealing to the 4 quadrants. But it does. That's because I'm not super emotionally invested in it. I do appreciate it from the IP squad standpoint of this is a really solid use of IP.
So I guess then this is more a question for myself and for Reed then when I ask, is this a successful adaptation? Because this whole season is geared towards the adaptation of movies from video games. And part of the criteria we've sort of laid out is the successful adaptations we've encountered are ones that can make you do the Leonardo DiCaprio point at the screen, I know that thing, which is the baseline of how these movies even start getting made, right? Is that that's a thing people recognize.
Yeah.
But the successful adaptations are interpreting the spirit of the original thing in a way that speaks to both fans and not fans alike.
Right.
And does this movie do that? Reed, what are your opinions on that angle?
I think so. I definitely think it captures just about everything that you'd want from a Pokemon adaptation. You've got the inherent mystery from all of the games where there's something, happening behind the scenes that you're trying to figure out. It's got adorable, cute characters. They've got kind of monstrous looking characters. There's different power levels. You've got the inherent want for companionship and being growth of a person that is kind of built into every single one of the games and the movies too. Maybe there's not a huge lesson in this movie that the main character Tim has to go through, other than just being it's okay to not be alone.
Yeah, there's an emotional arc for him for sure.
Yeah, but it's not that's not the primary goal of the movie, right? There's a bunch of little things that I think are all kind of inherent to Pokemon, and it does all of them without making any single one of them the primary focus. And I think, if it's able to do all that and us walk away having a good time, I think it was successful.
Yeah. Gorgone?
Yeah. I feel similarly in that the best adaptations we describe are the ones that you think cohere to the thing you like, right? So but it's interesting because we compare this to, and this is going to be the weirdest comparison I think between movies we've done this season, but this and Assassin's Creed.
Sure.
I think it's such an interesting pivot point between those two movies, because these are also made within, like, 'cause Assassin's Creed was what, 2016? They're made within a
Yeah.
few, like, 5
Yeah.
years of each other.
Yeah.
And that is also a movie that accepts the source material as like something that exists. It's dancing through the raindrops a little bit of like pre-existing material, but it's also trying to tell its own story. Now, is that less successful than Detective Pikachu because Assassin's Creed inherently lacks the iconography of a Pokemon? Because, like, what is the iconography that you can latch onto in Assassin's Creed? It's the hidden blade and maybe a hood with a peak on it. Like, is that as close as we get to like visibly distinct things in Assassin's Creed?
Well, I
Whereas
think
Pokemon is Pokemon.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting point. I think also you're talking about the density. I mean, the big thing we talk about that is the density of the mythology of Assassin's Creed. In some ways, is kind of a fool's errand to even try to do that. Whereas you talk about Pokemon does have the iconography to land on, in that you can just put Pokemon in the movie and people bring something to that. You don't have to sit there and describe all of it.
But there is like world lore here that if you're coming into this without like knowing about Pokemon, the whole idea of Pokemon evolution is such a weird if you take it as like outside of a fan of the franchise, like you have to get across that these little monsters can then turn into different monsters for reasons that the movie never explains. You just have to accept.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's the scene early in the or not in early in the film, but like I think in Act 2 when they're at the fight club and the Magikarp turns into a Gyarados.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone who is a fan of the franchise goes like, fuck yeah, dumbest Pokemon turns into scariest Pokemon. That is from Gen 1, one of the classic kind of memes of the franchise.
Mm-hmm.
But then that whole concept becomes the hinge of the bad guys' plan, basically, is like Pokemon evolution is something humans should be able to achieve. Mm-hmm. I'm Bill Nye. I can say that with gravitas and you'll believe me, even though what I'm saying is ridiculous.
But I think the movie does a good enough job of also not overcomplicating that, right? Like you see that, Bill Nye says that's what he's doing, and then we see what that is in practice. So it's very simple. It really does come down to, it is just solid 1 to 2 to 3, screenplay structure.
But that it is just as much nonsense as, well, if we dive into your genetic memory, we can relive your past self so that we can find the artifacts of an ancient proto-civilization.
I think the difference is Assassin's Creed portrays it as nonsense, or like, you guys, listen up. Here it is. Rather than this movie shows you a thing, tells you, here's what you just saw, and then shows you the ramifications of what that is. It's very simple. The simplicity of this movie is a compliment for me. Like I think people too often use like, oh, it's very simple or it's very slight or something like that. This movie is very clearly focused, and clearly it went through, looking at the Wikipedia, a lot of different hands writing it, but through all of that they came up with this very clean structure that that you can really easily follow, and especially when you're making. I mean, I don't mean this as a special, but I mean, like, I think one of, if not the major target audience of this movie is children, and so you need to keep things clear. It's one of the things I always revere about Pixar is, even if they're dealing in heavy emotional issues, it's very simple. The stories are very simple. And so a kid can actually engage in more complex emotional thinking because everything is so simply presented. And I think this movie does a good job of that. I think the Sonic movies, which of course are coming up on the show, I think they do that, particularly the third one. I was very impressed with. John
Campbell, very impressed with Sonic 3.
I was, because that movie, I thought, was the first time I saw one of these that was like, you know what? That, without going into too dark or getting too adult, dealt with things like death and grief in a way that I was like, wow, shit, man.
Maria.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing where you're like, yeah. I mean, once again, I'm not in the spectrum of all of film, no, but for
I know.
third Sonic movie primarily aimed at children, I went, you know what? Not bad, not bad at all. And I'll get to talk about Michael Listman's coming on to talk. By the way, Michael Listman, who was like, please let me do Sonic 3. So you know, I mean, I think this movie. Like I said, I said what sort of keeps me at a distance from it, but throughout the movie, I never wanted to turn it off. I never, lost focus on it. And at the end of it, I went, pretty solid for what it is, which is something I would not be interested in, but it held my interest in the moment. So, take from that. And I think the other thing too, when you talk about it as an adaptation, is another question is, what is it adapting? Is another smart thing, right? Yeah. It doesn't do the Super Mario Brothers thing where it's like, oh man, hey, video game, step aside. Us movie folks know how to tell a tale. But it also doesn't do the thing.
You're talking about
I'm talking about the first movie we did this season, which was Super Mario Brothers the movie. Is that what it's called? I think technically.
I don't know. The Bob Hoskins and John
The first episode of this season, where we started from.
Yeah. I was there, I know.
Or the Assassin's Creed thing, where I think the problem is it's so in love with its own mythology that's like, we have to tell you all of this, you guys. Whereas this movie knows like what things to emphasize and what things to just sort of let exist, and like you have fun figuring that out. The thing where, I mean, the idea that they just stumble into a Pokemon fight, match, right? We stumble in and we discover through the action of it what that's about. And like you
Fun
can
Easter egg in this movie is that fight they stumble into, the Gengar versus Blastoise.
Mm-hmm.
That is the like very rudimentary opening like animation from Pokemon Blue.
Then I guess they learned from that game that that's a good introduction, because the thing about that is you get all you need to know. It's also the same thing about like, how do we introduce the concept of catching Pokemon? Well, you start the movie with a scene where a guy throws the Pokeball. Is it called a Pokeball?
It's called a Pokeball.
Okay.
What I found so interesting about
and
this movie, though, is they introduce that concept, and then it does nothing with it the rest of the movie. It just establishes that that's a thing, but then we're immediately subverting that by going, no, the place we're going, they don't catch Pokemon here. Pokemon are just around.
Yeah, yeah. And the idea that, like, once again, the way the Pokemon are handled, like some people, they are pets too. We see that with Watanabe and with Catherine Newton's is it a psych duck? Psycho duck? What is it? Psyduck. Oh, they just said
Psyduck.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John. This is just so rare for talking about like nerdy subjects, and you like really struggling with the terminology.
I don't,
It's just, it almost never happens, so I have to relish it while I can.
Would be this,
and good.
And actually, it would be this. But actually, I would be able to talk Harry Potter more than this, even though that was also not a thing I ever got super into. Just through living in the world, I could tell you the basic characters, and there's less stuff in that too. I would get lost in the creatures, but I think a lot of people would. I don't think people engage with that in quite the same way, on a general basis.
But what about all those fantastical creatures and where to find them, John?
Yeah, I think I saw 2 of the 3 of those. I think I saw the second one. It was like I think there's at least 3. I think there's 3 even. They never finished their 5-movie plan though. Anyway,
yeah, we got to restart the whole franchise and traumatize a whole new generation of young actors.
You know what I like is even not being a particular fan, I still think that's like, oh, fuck off. Even not having a lot of attachment to it, I am like, how dare you? That's such a bad idea. just as a fan of storytelling in general, I'm upset. Anyway.
What if we simply did it again?
Well, because also the thing I see that is like, oh God, if that's even moderately successful, we're going to see so much shit again. Because they're already talking about doing Twilight as a show. I saw somewhere. Yeah, hey, yeah.
I mean, people have been talking about, like, are we going to see a Star Wars or Lord of the Rings reboot in our lifetimes? And just like,
Lord of the Rings, I feel certain, Yes. Star Wars,
Well,
maybe.
Lord of the Rings, we're getting another death rattle next year or the year after with Hunt for Gollum.
Oh boy, and that is just oh boy. Ooh, doggy, I don't like that.
Andy Serkis needs some of that Gollum money, baby.
He doesn't though. You got that Batman money now, baby. Get on the Batman. All right, let's talk. Let's talk about how this thing did at the box office.
Before we get there,
yeah.
Reed, anything else to say on Detective Pikachu? I mean, we didn't really break down the entire plot, but like, there's bits here with like different. What are your favorite Pokemon that are in this movie? Start there.
I mean, there's the Ditto reveal, which I think is a good use of that because that is.
Oh, hell yeah!
They pulled different things from different movies that were kind of plot points and stuff like that. Like the tech facility from the original Pokemon movie having Mewtwo being prominent. Mewtwo looks awesome in this.
The whole Mewtwo breakout scene at the start of the movie, I thought ruled.
I thought, well, see, when I first started watching this, and I did not see this in theaters. I watched this at home in the comfort of my own home, low expectations, happily surprised when I watched it years ago, and I was like, oh shit, we're doing Detective Pikachu, but somehow we're redoing the first movie. Awesome. Not the case, but yeah. Favorite thing, I don't know. Snubble looks great. I love me a Snubble. He's got the same hair tech that they've got going on for Pikachu. It looks awesome. Fun thing, I don't know if you guys know, but there was a concept artist who got really well known for doing their real life iterations of Pokemon that was working at Ubisoft that then got hired to help with the production of this movie for.
Yeah, I did see that in the research material. I was looking at that, and that's cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why some of the creatures look a little bit extra kind of different. Charizard, I think, being one of those, like, oh, he's real scaly and stuff like that.
Yeah, I said there are
the Pokemon that have like prominence in the film that look like they've turned up the realism dial some of the other backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like Gengar, I wanted him to look cooler. He looks a little silly in this, so I was a little saddened by that. But Blastoise looks awesome. I don't think there's anything in here that looks too ridiculous. I think maybe the faces on Torterra look they don't look realistic enough. They look like a direct adaptation of the 2D sprite. Yeah.
There's a few of those
real textures on it.
The Magolums that are around in the background, those look a little too like, oh, they just like made 3D models of they didn't stylize them much more in terms of realism.
There's no artist's interpretation of it.
Yeah, as opposed to like Lickitung, which is just like, oh, that thing's a horrifying mound of flesh with a big tongue.
Or like Lidocolo, who is just screaming in agony in the restaurant. Yeah, great. I didn't know I needed that. I love it. So yeah, amazing stuff. Hats off to them for making stuff from my imagination look wonderful, even if it wasn't exactly what I expected.
So as we turn to the box office, an interesting thing I was saying to you, Gorgone, that I think connects to a couple of these things is this came out 6 years ago as of the recording of this, and there is no particularly active development on another Pokemon movie.
Not a live action one anyway.
Some kind of continuation. We talk about, I don't know that what a sequel to this, you were saying that, you're, but at least some sort of continuation of what this movie built as a foundation is surprising to me. But as I look at the box office, I'm still somewhat surprised. But I will say, looking at the box office, I think speaks to some of what I was talking about earlier, which is when I say the mainstream, just mass audience appeal of Pokemon is this movie did okay in the U.S. and very well in foreign territories.
Sure.
I think that makes sense. You know what I mean? So I think in some ways that could be some of why they haven't rushed into another one. I don't know.
Effects-driven adventure movies always do well everywhere.
Yes.
But we're also talking about a movie that is maybe on the back burner at any given studio. Not the back burner, but like is like not the priority franchise film at whatever given studio it would end up landing at. And so when you have things like a global pandemic and then an actor strike and director stuff, like this is never going to be the thing that we want to fast track after the Troubles.
Right. Yeah, that's this, and it's interesting. I just think it's interesting for Warner Brothers that he's so, as we were literally just talking about, a lot of that stuff, Harry Potter and stuff like that, is so desperate for franchises that they haven't. I would have expected them to run full shot into a Pokemon streaming show, all live action stuff like that. I don't know how the rights shake out. Like, I don't know how much, because and we did talk about, there's a lot of control ceded to the Pokemon company. So I don't know if that's a thing that they would, that they could just do.
Looking stuff up right now, there hasn't been an animated Pokemon movie since 2020 either.
Oh wow!
So
interesting.
We're in a dry spell for Pokemon movies. Just
now, once again, you guys but Pokemon games they've been continuing, right? When was the last Pokemon
for the
game?
most part. The last like main series game was, let's see, Pokemon Legends ZA was February of last year.
Okay, so that's what I mean.
And there's probably going to be a Switch. The Switch 2 just launched recently. We're probably getting
that would make sense.
Pokemon game.
Oh yeah, we definitely are. It's Pokemon whatever it was.
Or no, ZA is the one that has yet to come. It was
Yeah.
announced in February, and it's coming out soon.
Probably this year or early.
Yeah, October. It's coming out.
Okay.
So as of this recording, it's coming out in a couple of months.
Okay. So I mean, yeah. So I mean, that there's still and as we talked about, the cards remain exceedingly popular with rises to levels of violence at times.
The anime kind of just ended-ish, sort of. It rebooted. Like Ash was a character that was all like basically an invention of the anime and remained the protagonist of that show for 20 plus years in the never aging way a protagonist of a cartoon can.
Right.
And they did just like retire that character fairly recently. I want to say in the last couple of years.
Well, he's getting on in years. It's time to hang it up,
Voice actor.
They've changed voice actors a couple of times.
Yeah.
But let's see, I'm trying to find the because the show has a couple of different like spin-off series, but like the particular of like the anime itself, I don't think it's ended necessarily, but it is now transitioned back in 2020 Pokemon.
Interesting. Okay, so I mean,
but the fact that we are in sort of a dearth of mainline Pokemon media writ large, I guess, in terms of like either theatrically released animated film or live action.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's interesting. But okay, so the movie made $433.3 million worldwide.
Okay,
so where do you think that landed? Where do you think that landed in the? I mean, I'm not saying this is not a success. This movie was very much a success. It's just interesting to see how that breaks down. Where do you think this landed?
It's not making Endgame money.
Yeah, very interesting you mentioned that, because number one movie of 2019 was Avengers Endgame, which made just a skosh under 2.8 billion. I mean, was possibly making $3 billion. And that's just an amount of money that's inconceivable.
And it has spoiled the curve for every movie since.
Yeah, you could get into a whole thing about not problems at the box office themselves, but problems with box office expectations. Anyway, where do you think Pokemon Detective Pikachu landed in the
top 200? Is how we categorize.
I've got the top 200 here. Yeah,
I'm saying it breaks into the top 25. After that, Reed, where do you think?
mean, if we're going top 25, I feel like maybe like a 20, maybe. I don't know. I struggle to remember what came out besides.
Oh well,
Endgame
let me
in
give you
2019.
the top 5. They're all made by Disney. Number 2, people forget that Jon Favreau's The Lion King made $1.6 billion. That thing was a juggernaut. Number 3 was Frozen 2, which made $1.4 billion. Spider-Man Far From Home was in 4th with $1.1 billion, and also in 5th with also $1.1 billion, Captain Marvel. This is why Marvel has trouble now, is because they remember a year where they had 3 movies make over $1 billion. Those days are just over. I mean, I don't see them coming back. So stop it. Stop trying to do that. Stop making that the goal.
What is the drop off after, like, when we dip below 1 million? What's the drop, or 1 billion? What's the drop off?
Well, I will say the top 9 movies of the year made $1 billion.
That's wild. 2019 was a golden age, and we didn't know it.
I mean, it really is the thing about then the next year is the pandemic year. So it was riding as high as it could possibly be, and then came crashing down. And I think that's why we're still dealing with people going, what happened? It was the greatest of moments. Anyway, Reed's
so I might need to adjust my thinking then. Maybe above 25.
You're saying above 25.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Reed, pick a number.
Reed guessed 20.
I feel like 20. Pokemon's pretty big. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, my concept of large quantities of money like this, once we get over like a couple $1 million, it just goes right out the window.
Well,
it's all fake anyway.
No, it is like that's what I'm saying. Like when you get into like Avengers almost making $3 billion, you're like, I don't even know what to do. Like trying to imagine that much money is just insane.
That's you saying 300 million and 3 billion. It's the same number in my head. It's too big.
Absolutely,
it's a lot.
Yeah. All right. So Reed's going 20th. Gorgone,
I'm gonna say Price is Right rules. I'm saying 22.
Hey, you should have gone the other way. It was 18.
Damn.
18th
Well,
place.
Price is Right rules. We both lost it.
You both lost because you went over. This was just below My People, My Country, which was a Chinese anthology film. I have no idea I don't even know if it came out in the U.S. And just above
that Chinese market, man.
Oh, hey, the highest grossing movie right now of the year is a Chinese animated film. It is insane.
That none of us have seen.
No.
I've seen clips of it though.
It was Niza 2.
The sequel one?
Yeah, Niza 2. Yeah. It's insane though. It's blowing everything out of the water. It's not even close. Because it's becoming a cultural thing. It seems like Chinese people just like going to the movies more than Americans. I don't know what to tell you. That really seems what's the lesson to learn there? They like the theater. I don't know. Like anyway,
I think they also have a ton of theaters too.
They keep building.
It's supremely accessible.
No, the big thing is I keep reading that China is building more theaters and we keep closing theaters. So I mean, there is a thing about like it's a very interesting thing. Anyway, and it was just above The Secret Life of Pets 2.
Secret Life of Pets 2.
2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where Patton Oswalt took.
That's a movie that definitely I remember exists.
Patton Oswalt took over as the main voice from the first movie's main voice, who was Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.
Yeah. Who's not problematic at all? Oh, Patton Oswalt. You know, everybody likes that guy, right? All right. Okay.
The worst you could accuse him of is being too pedantic.
Yeah. But we love him for it, you know. All right, here are the highs and lows, as we always end every episode. This first review comes to us from Zidane, who titles their.
This is our high.
This is our high. Gorgone, do you want to take a guess as to? You love to try to guess the tone of these.
Oh, I do love because I've heard so many of these like
they do
undulating reviews.
There's only so much variation between these reviews and their general opinions.
So I'm gonna guess the high here is gonna be like, this is my childhood writ large on screen. I am so happy. The nostalgia, it grips me so deeply.
Oh, you
And the low is going to be, I don't understand why people like cute things. I think these animals are stupid.
okay? You're dead on one of those. And I think you're going to know immediately when I tell you that Zidane's review is titled, "This movie is literally what my 10-year-old self was dreaming of when Pokemon first came out." That's the title of the review.
Yeah, and they're correct.
Okay, here we go. I'm not really a fan of CGI-heavy action flicks like this, Marvel, etc., but I wanted to watch this movie for the pure nostalgia. As a kid, I used to fantasize about a well-made live-action Pokemon movie, and I thought it was never going to be made. So I entered the cinema trying to go back to the headspace of 10-year-old me, and boy, was I surprised. What I wanted most out of this movie was to see an overabundance of Pokemon everywhere, just fighting and doing Pokemon stuff. Sorry, I just love the phrasing. And this is exactly what this movie is. I think they reused the same Pokemons and even models a bit too much, but that's a very minor critique. The movie stayed true to the Pokemon franchise in very few, if any other video game adaptations have done. I do have to note that it feels like a huge homage to everyone who grew up with Pokemon, and I'm not sure how the younger generation will think of it, but I sure hope that they keep doing them. The biggest downfall of the movie was honestly the story and plot. I didn't really care for it at all, and sometimes during the movie, the more plot-heavy moments, I got a bit bored while waiting for the next Pokemon thing to happen, but I'm still giving it 10 out of 10 for just surprising the shit out of me. Woohoo! 10 out of 10 stars. I will say, it does sound like you guys aren't maybe as extreme on that, but would you say that you somewhat, like, the plot is, and I think this is actually, once again, something the movie is smart about, the plot is fine. It's a good enough thing to hang the movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's the thing. Yeah, you're not... I'm glad, because I was coming in going like, that's like my biggest nitpick of the movie is I just was not super engaged. But it doesn't sound like you guys are going, I love these characters.
I think like the juice between Justice Smith and Catherine Newton is Ryan Reynolds is doing his Ryan Reynolds thing.
It's all
Bill
fine.
Nighy is selling himself 1,000% in every scene he's in.
Yeah, I mean,
that's just what he does.
I have more
and
fun with him in
Ken Watanabe is criminally underused in this film.
But to be fair, this is like the 6th American movie that has criminally underused Ken Watanabe. It is
6. That's a low number.
I haven't seen all those Godzilla movies. But
I have seen them, and they criminally underuse him for one. But King of the Monsters, he is righteously used.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. You were a little bit off on the because it's a different direction for the low, Gorgone. It's a hardliner.
Oh, it's Pokemon Killed My Grandmother?
No, it's a hardliner that I think is pitching a movie that no one would want to see. All right, here we go.
This is a grimdark Pokemon person.
Oh, the Pokemon War.
Oh, well, here we go. This comes to us from Tom Ryan 112, who says, Pikachu talks way too much. That's the title of the review. Ryan Reynolds is a great actor, but does get really annoying playing the voice of Pikachu. Talks way too much, and the voice just doesn't feel right. Pikachu even says "damn" in this film. One example of the way off base personality they give the cute Pikachu. Another inappropriate line they gave Pikachu. At this point, how can you not believe in climate change? I was shaking my head and shocked. Lines like these have no business in a Pokemon story at all.
Oh,
this
Pokemon went woke.
This story's really
Pokemon's been about climate change for years. Go play Ruby and Sapphire.
This story's really out of touch from what I was used to seeing as a kid. Catch 'em all, Pokemon Trainer, Battles, Badges theme, which was very disappointing to me, along with the not great villain in a story that is easily surpassed by most Pokemon earlier animated films. If you like Pokemon, the movie is interesting to see once just to look at the great CGI Pokemon. Thought I'd check it out since I loved Pokemon in the late 90s and early 2000s. Wouldn't watch it a second time. 1 out of 10 stars. Yeah. This ain't my Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the hyperbole of IMDb film review aside.
Yeah.
Like, their criticism is what it is. I love the idea that, like, again, something that you only learned just now, John, is that like not all Pikachus are cut from the same cloth,
Right.
let alone aren't even the same character. So like all Pikachus must be a monolith of like personality.
Well, I really
is
love the idea
something
that
this person's
that
bringing
Ryan
forward.
Reynolds was bringing his adult humor into this by saying "damn." He's just Deadpooling up this whole movie.
And look, the climate change joke is a little like, we're topical.
Sure, but whereas we go like, okay, maybe a little, desperate or whatever, or like a little back patty. I move on from it. And this guy's going like, what? The people who the people who got all bent out of shape out of the line in the Batman where Catwoman says something about rich white people. I can't remember what it is. It's just some tossed off thing that is so in her character as somebody who grew up with nothing and has resentment towards people with money. But people are just like, the fuck is this shit doing in a Batman movie? It's like, it's one line in a movie and I have to find something to be pissed about. What the fuck was that? And so
now Catwoman's a socialist.
So the idea that this guy's sitting in the theater and one mention of climate change and he's like, I heard that. My sensor went off. What is this bullshit now? It's a toss-off line.
It's the same people that went into it going like, I'm not going to like this. They're not going to do it right. And they're just like, oh, yep, there it was. I was right. I was validated.
But I
like
my thoughts. And of course the thing about like, why isn't this movie about training and fighting? And this is bullshit, man. Why isn't this like the cartoon movies?
Those movies already existing.
That's what he brings.
Those.
He goes, I like those cartoons, but fine, then go. Yeah, there's a bunch of them, man. Fuck you, Hollywood.
A way to like go into a Pokemon movie is make it a Rocky movie.
Oh, sure, that could be a take.
Is like there is a way to do this that is also totally in the spirit of Pokemon. That is training for some big battle that you have to like get over your own personal anxiety and your partnership with your Pokemon in order to like achieve righteous victory. Like there's juice there. You can
absolutely, and it's something we were talking about. When we talked about like what would the sequel to this be? That is what I would say. They should just keep doing these individual stories, and even if it's like that, where it's like they're almost individual genres. If the next one is like a sports movie, that's a cool idea. Just the idea of like make the world and the idea of the Pokemon the main thing, as opposed to trying to tell one long story. They never do that. Nobody ever takes that advice from me.
Pokemon street racing movie, just make it Fast and the Furious.
I mean, you could do that. That's the thing. I mean, that's the thing about it is like you're talking about the source material.
Just Reed slowly looking into the middle distance, nodding.
I mean, okay, so I specifically think about the newest games where like some of like the legendaries are literal motorcycles, like. We could do this, Mike. We could do this. All right.
I know.
Let's get a treatment together. Let's make some money.
Yeah.
I am gonna Tokyo drift my Rapidash. That's all I'm saying.
But I think like you're talking about with how broad the source material as it is, you could kind of take it anywhere and still keep it Pokemon, quote unquote. And I think that would be like a fun thing to do.
Yeah. Pokemon Indiana Jones, where you're digging up roots to Pokemon street racing, where you're riding fast Pokemon. Pokemon Rocky, where you're training up for some big battle.
It's all there.
One of my favorite Pokemon things of the last 5 years is this absolutely chill out 15-minute an episode show that was released on Netflix called Pokemon Concierge. It is just about a woman who goes to work at a resort facility for Pokemon because her life has gotten too complicated and annoying, and she's just I need to disconnect from everything and chill out with Pokemon. And that's the premise of the show, and it's so relaxing.
But I mean, if you think about that, right, you could do if you're thinking about an HBO Max streaming series, Pokemon comedy show. What's a Pokemon workplace? What's The Office with Pokemon? I mean, you really could do that. You could take almost anything and go plus Pokemon and build on this world. That could be fun.
So in terms of interacting with CG characters, there's precedent for that because the TED TV show exists. and he's basically a Pokemon already. Like,
And
there's no reason you couldn't pull this off and have it still look good now.
Yeah, because I mean,
So,
I was like, how are they going to do that? And Ted looks just as good on the show as he does in the movie. They really pulled that off. That show was surprisingly very good, actually. I was shocked at how much
that is hilarious.
It's so funny. I was like, really? Do we need a Ted show? And I went, apparently we do. That show makes me laugh a lot. Anyway. Thank you, fellas. Of course, you can hear both Reed and Gorgone every week on Material Components here on the Punch Up Entertainment Network. New season coming soon, Gorgone?
Yes, indeed. Season 3 right around the corner.
Very cool. So make sure you're subscribed to that. You can also hear Gorgone and I every week talking about Star Wars comics on May the Panel Be With You. We're still in the 80s, man.
There's no escape.
It's still the 80s. So check that out. And of course, if you want even more from us, you want to head over to our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/punchupent. That's punchupent. Get cool exclusive bonus content from all the shows on the Punch Up Entertainment Network. Gorgone, where else can people check us out?
YouTube. youtube.com/@punchupentertainment. Speaking of Matcom Season 3, that will also be premiering the video version of that via YouTube.
Nice.
You'll not see our beautiful faces because look, we're not putting on makeup every week to play Matcom, and sometimes our offices get real hot and sweaty. But I will have like video versions of the world map and the battle map, and
nice.
we'll some interactive video experiences for those listening along at home or watching along at home, as the case may be.
I will say,
while you're there, please like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. We do so much stuff over there.
And make sure you do that because we are going to be doing even more video content in 2026. So the YouTube channel is going to be even bigger. So you want to make sure you get on that.
2026, the year of the things we show you with your eyeball.
Yeah, we're using all the senses. Wait till 2027 when we do smell-o-vision.
Finally.
You don't want it. You don't want it.
No, I don't think you do.
It's...
But yes, next week on the show, surprise, surprise, I'll be talking about Sonic the Hedgehog, which sort of feels like the next evolution from this in terms of the CGI, driven, adorable animal movies.
John, did you even know you were making a pun when you said that?
I did, like, literally in the middle of the word. Like, Evo, okay. And then I knew it.
God, you're so disconnected from Pokemon. It's so weird.
No, I know that's a thing. And I remember isn't there a movie called or a show or something called Pokemon Evolution, or maybe a game? I don't know. Don't know it. It's fine. But you know what I do know? Sonic the Hedgehog. And actually, my sister, Kinsey Campbell, has joined me for that because we lost many a summer to those Sonic the Hedgehog games on our Sega Genesis. So we'll talk nostalgically about playing Sonic games as kids. And also her love of the actor James Marsden. Because he's pretty delightful. Tune in for that. But I think that's going to do it. Until next week, the case file is closed.